Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Hello and welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to find inspiration to thrive and flourish abundantly in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest started his real estate career with the purchase of a duplex some 25 years ago. He has steadily grown his investment portfolio and in 2018 purchased a 62-unit apartment complex. Under his ownership and self-management, the acquisition has steadily brought his investors an 8% annualized return and projected 18% internal rate of return. He holds an MBA from Eastern Carolina University and completed his real estate licensure requirements from Temple University Real Estate Institute. I am pleased to have with me today Mike Butler.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Let's get into who you are as a person. And the way I like to start that helps us get into who you are as a person is go back to your childhood. So if you can bring to mind a memorable experience from your childhood that, as you look back on it, actually turned out to be a formative experience.
So many, but I think obviously as a child you're always kind of formed from your parents and what's going on in your lives at that time, and I just remember having my mother and father there and having them home every day, having dinner every night. It was you don't appreciate the value of that until you get older. And that was something, that sense of family and connection was always very dear to me. It still is. And my wife and I try to do the same thing with our children, even though this day and age, there's so many others, seems to be more distraction than anything. But having that consistency, that's always been a big part for us. And we try to carry that forward today.
And how do you see that as being formative in your life?
I think just taking the time and enjoying what's around you and what's in front of you for the day. I think we all, as investors or successfully driven people, you're always looking forward. You're always looking to try to get to that next step, that next level. And sometimes you just have to take a step back and see where you are today and enjoy it. And I've learned to do that. I sometimes get caught up in, they call the rat race, as we all know. But especially now in these days, what's going on, you kind of makes you reflect a little bit and say, I have a great day in front of me today. Let's do it and use it as much as I can. And then, we'll work on the next step tomorrow.
Yeah, in this day and age, and really particularly, like you said, for driven people, we live in the future rather than in the moment.
Yeah.
And because of that, we miss a lot of those special moments.
Yeah.
But speaking of the moment, tell us 3 good things that you've experienced in the last 24 hours.
Oh, wow. Well, it's the one thing. Woke up to a beautiful day today. I'm in Philadelphia, and the weather this spring has been very rainy and wet and cold. So it's a gorgeous day today. So I really appreciate that. And that's one thing I've learned as I got older. My wife has helped me realize that. Take a step back and enjoy what's in front of you. And so that's always good. My daughter called me this morning out of the blue. She's at the University of Delaware. She's a student there. My other daughter's at home, just graduated from Temple University. She called me out of the blue just in the morning, which usually at that age, they're not even, just still asleep at 10 o'clock in the morning, but just going to see what we're doing, what's the plan for the weekend, just checking in. And that tells me that they're engaged in the point of what's going on with the family. So maybe some of that, there's dinners and family time, maybe it's starting to rub off to the next generation. So that was good.
And what was your third thing?
Oh, third thing. No, you're talking to you. I think that having the moment at 4 or 3 o'clock Eastern time today, towards starting to wind down the day, is kind of taking the time to meet someone new and again helping me focus on some of the deeper thoughts of the day and in the past and in the future is a good thing too.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure for me as well. So looking back on your life, if you are different today now than you were, say, 10, 20 years ago, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, how are you different? And what is it that, I don't know, provoked, brought about those changes?
I think certainly more attuned, like I mentioned, I kind of touched on earlier, attuned to how I'm feeling and what's going on and really focusing on what's around me today and in the next few days versus trying to get to that next level and kind of being in that rat race. I've learned that it's important to understand and appreciate how you feel. I catch myself now when I'm a little ornery. And I try to get myself out of that because I'm one of those type of people who wears his emotions on his sleeve. People don't have to guess what I'm thinking. Put it that way. And that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. So I've learned that I need to kind of be attuned to that. So, but I think over the past, as you get older, so, my wife and I've been married for 23 years, happily married. We've been through a lot, family, things like that, and but we've done it together. And I realized as you get older, you kind of again, just reflecting. You end up reflecting more as you get in your middle 50s, as I am. And just you kind of put in a different perspective as you were maybe in your 30s. But an event, I guess, you mentioned about having an event. As you mentioned, I've in the opening, I've been investing in real estate for 25, almost 30 years now, and mostly passively. I'm still working today in the healthcare space. I'm a physician assistant in cardiac surgery and critical care. Great career, loved it, but I am looking to make a full-time transition into commercial real estate investing as a syndicator. But over the first 15, 20 years, I've been doing mostly single-family flips, rentals, things like that, and I went through the last downturn in 2008, 2009. Everything was great, chumming along, and then of course, the bottom dropped out. Learned a lot during that time, and not only about the business side of it, but also just about myself getting through. I lost some properties like most investors did at the time. Saved some, made some better than what they were. And when I think you go through that full cycle as an owner operator, you learn a lot of things about how to deal with people, how to deal with tenants, how to deal with investors. I mean, the whole gamut. And I think that's made me a better owner operator today, better syndicator, better general partner, and I learned a lot from that. So that was a very pivotal moment, I think, in my development as an investor.
2007 was rough for a lot of people. It was for me too. It was a really difficult time.
Yeah.
I just was not expecting it, which was my fault for not being more aware of what was going around. But
it's interesting you say that. I think it's not that I started questioning it, and I'll never forget this moment. It was like our 9th or 10th property, single family rental we were going to buy, and I remember this vividly, and it really started to get my wheels going. So I'm sitting there with the lender, these mortgage brokers or whatever. They were just, how the situation was. They would just sell them off and just sign here, sign this, and I could do more than fog a mirror, as the saying goes. So, but I started questioning, it just can't be this simple. Like, something isn't right here. And that's what really started me thinking, wait a minute. And that's when I started looking into things, and then bam, it just hit. But, but learning, learning what I learned then, I always tell, my investors or even people I work with that, I learned now that I will not make that mistake again. And that's what I think I learned from that moving forward. So it's always helped me moving forward into, rebuilding, so to speak. And that's why I am where I am now. And it's worked out very well.
Yeah, it was. I learned a lot from 2007 and 8, and like you, there's a lot of things I'll never do.
Right. Exactly.
Well, tell us about Robert Frost penned the poem Two Roads Diverged in the Road, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all of the difference. Tell us about uh, a, a fork in the road that has made all of the difference for you.
Well, it kind of goes back to one thing that first thing that comes to my mind is, well, two things actually that have actually, from a career standpoint. One being, how I ended up in healthcare was very um, uh, unexpected. Something I always was interested in as a child, and then kind of just fell into it. And being in critical care and heart surgery obviously is a very intense profession. And but as a young new grad, I had really no clue, and
Mm.
just this job opportunity came up, and it just kind of fell in my lap, and I said, sure, why not? Ended up doing it 30 years later. I'm still doing it, and it's been wonderful. I can't complain at all. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of learning a lot, and helping a lot of people, which has been great. But it's something that I would not have, as a child, if you asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, this wasn't it. Never crossed my mind. But it has provided a great lifestyle for my family and security, and I'll always be appreciative of it. But for me, going back to the second fork in the road is that there's time to do something new. And I've done everything I can do in this profession. Now I want to do another one, and that's where the real estate investing kind of morphed into more of a full-time um, uh, profession that I really been started walking down that path about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was the episodes back in 2000s, during the downturn that I think it was a pivotal moment for me is when I was going through foreclosure on one of the properties, and I had a single family, and the sheriff came to the door, and and it's very cordial, but my kids who were very young at the time, like, why is your police officer here? And that really kind of like, wow, it affected me. It's like, this cannot be my legacy, and that really spawned me to develop a whole new business. In a sense, I've always believed in real estate. I think it's a great investment, but it's got to be done the right way, and it has to be done more purposeful, and that's where really multifamily for me, it was a natural progression. And to me, it was just a better business model, and I've been very successful at it. Thankfully, I thank God for that. And, but that was that fork. I can do it two paths: just walk away from it and say, "Wow, I took my bumps and bruises. I'll never do that again," or say, "No, this will not be me. I'm smarter than that. I'm better than that," and I am, and I have been. So I've been really appreciative of that, and I learned a lot. Definitely very transferable information I learned from there into single family and the multifamily.
Yeah. Some of
So
the
a lot.
best lessons in life are some of the most unpleasant, I think.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the more poignant ones, yes.
Yeah. My guest today is Mike Butler, a 25-year veteran in the real estate investment industry. Um, Mike, we've talked about some of the setbacks, some of the uh, miserable times in your life. Tell us about what is your most memorable triumph.
Uh, Most recently, I think is, obviously there's the family parts, parts of our children, and watching them grow and succeed is always, every day is a triumph, and especially getting them through all the challenges they have as young adults these days. And I think, but the biggest one, I guess, going back to my investing story, is that closing on my first multifamily. It's and doing a syndication. Having other people trust you with their money is paramount to me, and I'll always be most appreciative of that, but also very protective of that. And I think that's important. When someone has the trust them with, they believe in you enough to do that. That says a lot. And I think when I was able to close that deal and to kind of close that door behind me, if you will, of it wasn't a failure, it was just a growing the growing pains that I went through to get to the point where I was now. And experience, like I always tell them, what I had known then, I will not make the same mistakes again. put it that way, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, those recognition and victories do help a lot to overcome those bad times.
Right.
Yeah, I suspect. I mean, for you, from what I'm hearing, I hear a lot of what's happened to me in 2007 and 8. You know, the financial setback was one thing, but the emotional and psychological wounds that were inflicted were much harder to overcome.
Yeah.
And really they had to be overcome before I could actually start moving forward again. So
yeah, I mean, I use it as a springboard. I remember, I have always felt this, that one of the things that I learned as a young child is that and I was already thankful for this, that a nice home to live in. It wasn't certainly high end. It was my blue collar, and my parents are still alive. God bless them, and in their mid 80s, they're still living in the house that I grew up in. And but that, I've early on understood how it's so important at any income level to have a decent place to live. And I kind of go through that management model, that mantra, as whether it's my multifamily or whether it was my singles or the flips that I did. You have to. It's so important, and it's just for quality of life at any level, is to have a decent place to stay and to feel safe. And I remember going through the downturns, and our tenants, they were struggling. It was a bad time all around. And then maybe we're starting to see some of that now again, with what's going on. But I've always the foundation of my company is to really provide that safe, comfortable place to live at any income level. It doesn't matter, and that's what I've really kind of focused on. So that's what I really gained from all of that.
So where is it that you find your deepest meaning and your deepest purpose in life?
The deepest meaning, I think, is it's a great question, and you have to kind of think about it in this sense sometimes. And I'm at a point now where I've realized how it's so much important to recognize how you're feeling and feeling good about what you're doing. And I'm trying to, instill that in our children as well. Is that it may not be, the greatest, biggest thing that you've done or will do, but if you're enjoying doing it, then that makes all the difference. And that's been very important to me over the past 2 or 3 years. I've really kind of come to realize that. Actually, my wife has helped me realize that. I was always on that run, go. And taking a step back has really helped me appreciate where I am and what I've done, but also what I'm going to do. That's been very important for me.
So what is it that you like to do spontaneously, that nobody makes you do, and that nobody can keep you from doing?
That's a great question. I'm a pilot, and I had my pilot's license, private license. Always one of those things out of a whim, getting out of school. My buddy of mine, high school buddy, like, hey, take a flight. I'd never been in a plane before. This is before my first lesson I ever took. That was the first time I was ever in a plane. We didn't travel much as when we were kids, and when I was a kid. But that's something I really enjoy, and I haven't done it as much as I would like to. I've taken my kids up. My youngest, our 14-year-old son, I have not had him up in the plane yet. But to me, it's just you kind of get you off the planet, literally, but figuratively as well. You can't answer the phone sometimes. It's kind of a pleasant disconnect. So I enjoy that, and the challenge of it. And my wife says I like all the buttons in front of me, the button pusher, I like all the knobs and buttons and things like that. But it's sometimes you get up there and you just look out and you see things you never see on the ground, and it's a quiet stillness that I really appreciate. So it's hard for me I haven't done it in a while, but I want to get back.
Wow, sounds fascinating. Flying has never been one of my favorite things. The first time that I was in a plane, I think I was in the 5th grade or so. And I don't know what it was. My dad worked for the Forest Service, and for some reason or the other, he got tickets for the whole family for us to fly from Durango, Colorado to Denver, Colorado.
Awesome.
And I got motion sickness and got sick. And so that was my first introduction to flying. And I've gotten over that to some degree because I lived in Guam for 5 years, and so I was in the air for long periods of time.
Take a bus there.
Yeah. So I've gotten over that, but I've still never developed a love of it. It's always something I kind of
I find it interesting, and this is very true. I've actually, I guess maybe it's a sense of control, but I feel safer in a plane I'm flying in a small single-engine 4-seat Cessna or Cherokee I usually fly, versus being in an airline. So.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if you're the pilot, you're going to have a whole lot more control than sitting there as a passenger. So,
right. Yeah. But my advice to anyone out there, and I always tell people they want to take a first flight, always do it in an early morning or early evening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the turbulence is less, and the temperature. It's a lot of physics behind it, but it's usually a more pleasant time to go. Oh, yeah. So if you want to do a discovery, I always take people up. If they're first time flying, I always take them up either early morning, early afternoon, or early evening. Yeah.
Well, I'll remember that next time I book a flight. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure talking with you, but we're out of time here. And I've got one more question. Before we go to that, tell the folks how they can get in touch with you.
The best way is either LinkedIn. I'm in LinkedIn under Mike Butler, under Carolina Multifamily Investments. You can find me there. There's my contact information. Just reach out. Love to talk. Real estate has been always something, obviously, over 25, 30 years now almost. I've been passionate of mine. And love talking about it, helping out any way I can. A lot of people have helped me to get to where I am. And, not as an obligation, but as a desire. I want to help other people move forward, either new beginners or even, I just love talking shop, if you will. But on the web, our website is carolinamultifamilyinvestments.com. And there you can find me and reach out. And I'd love to talk and catch up, and not just about real estate, but anything else that I could probably help with. We're all interconnected. I think we're learning that more now every day, especially what's going on, that we're very, very connected in many subtle and not so subtle ways.
Well, Mike, my last question is, and I ask this of all my listeners, when you come to the end of this journey of life, what do you want your epitaph to read?
I thought about that. You said that up before. Just thank you. I think I'm very simple. As I see myself as, just say thank you. I appreciate all the help. And hopefully it will be a long time before that's on there. But I take each day as it comes, and appreciative of it. If tomorrow's my last day, I'm a happy man.
I like that epitaph. Nice and simple. And I like the appreciation of it. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, likewise. Thank you. Anytime.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.